Hello, and thank you for joining us today at Flight 93 National Memorial for another segment of Their Stories Live Here, the stories of the remarkable passengers and crew members of Flight 93. My name is Sheena Baker, and I am a volunteer ambassador here at Flight 93. Today I'm honored to join you from the Memorial's Wetlands Bridge to introduce you to Flight 93 passenger Alan Anthony Beaven. Alan was born and raised in New Zealand, making him one of 5 Flight 93 passengers who were not native to the United States. He was a father of 3 and was described as someone who was naturally bright, had a quick wit, a wry smile, and a big personality. Children naturally gravitated to him, and he always made those around him feel loved and welcome. His wanderlust took him from New Zealand to London, to Portugal and Indonesia, and eventually to the United States. Alan's son John said of his father that in his 48 years, he accomplished more than most men dream of. In his professional career, Alan was an attorney, first in New Zealand and then in England, working for a time as a prosecutor for Scotland Yard. Eventually, he came to the U.S., joining a prestigious New York personal injury firm. Through it all, Alan always had the interests of others at heart and was very selfless. At times, he would do work gratis, performing some work as billable company time and doing the rest on his own time for clients who could not afford an attorney. In the 90s, Alan joined a securities and fraud firm, and it was during this period that his attention shifted to environmental litigation. Water was his passion, no doubt something that stemmed from his childhood growing up in New Zealand. He became a top environmental plaintiff's attorney, particularly in the area of clean water. It was said Alan knew the Clean Water Act as well as anyone. His work involved taking on some big-name entities, including the federal government, the National Park Service, municipalities, and manufacturers. Some of those cases resulted in stricter environmental laws. After his passing, a number of federal judges commended Alan for his dedication, demeanor, professionalism, preparation, and respect. In the summer of 2001, Alan was preparing to embark on a 1-year sabbatical to India, where he hoped to help the country solve its many water problems. He was splitting his time between New York and the West Coast, and on the morning of September 11th, Alan was on his way to Sacramento, where he was going to wrap up his final case before he, his wife, and their young daughter left for India. Of course, we know Alan never had the opportunity to help the people of India. Instead, his path brought him here, to this bucolic setting, perhaps fitting for someone who loved the outdoors and wide open spaces. Alan's sister believes that her brother, as an attorney, would have tried to negotiate with the terrorists on Flight 93 had it been a normal hijacking situation. But nothing about the morning of September 11th was normal, let alone the brave men and women on board Flight 93. Alan's family believes that he would have joined his fellow passengers in their planned assault on the cockpit. After all, Alan always had the interests of others at heart. Alan's former law partner said Alan was someone who could easily tell the difference between right and wrong and someone who stood for principle. Ask yourself, what do you stand for? A few days after the 9/11 terrorist attacks, someone found a handwritten note taped to the wall of Alan's makeshift office in New York. It was a quote that read, "Fear? Who cares?" That quote sums up perfectly who Alan Beaven was. He would not have let fear stand in the way of doing what he wanted or what needed to be done. Thank you for watching.